Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de how much spending is actually happening in my post-retirement life because I don't have to guess. I do actually have data, for me personally anyway. Hey, Zempak here. Oh boy. It's hard to imagine that I've been living off of unearned income for like about 8 years now. Good God, time sure flies, right? Now, my peers have stopped joking about when I'm going to go back to a corporate job because, you know, if I can survive this many years without it, it just sounds silly that I would need one at this point. Anyway, but one of the big topics that I always see recurring in the FIRE social media groups is that, you know, people are anxious about their post-retirement savings and how exactly to figure out how much spending a person's going to have in that totally different phase of life. Now, I thought to myself, well, I remember how much spending I was doing. I can just compare. Is it now more expensive, less expensive, or pretty much the same compared to before retirement, right? Now, I know some people think it's going to be less because we don't have to spend on work-related things like commutes. Maybe you don't have a mortgage, right? You can eliminate that big chunk. Well, today I'm going to give you my personal perspective, from somebody who, even before leaving that corporate job, I was pretty frugal to begin with, right? Anyway, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, share, all that social media, whatever, okay? Or don't, because I'm rich enough for me and I'll be great regardless. Okay, so let's start off by saying I think quantitatively we spend more because we are now a household of 2 instead of 1, right? Now I'm gonna peg my own pre-retirement spending at about 50K because I realized a couple of years before I pulled the plug, I realized that my non-employment income while still having a corporate job was already more than my actual spending for that year, right? I remember the number very well because at the time I said to my head, I'm spending 50K while I have a job, but I can probably still cut it down further to about 36K a year. If needed, if the market crashes or something, in the worst case, I'll do barista fire to weather that storm, right? So compared to that baseline, our current household spending is probably twice that, around 100K. So you'd think that's totally more, but even in this case, you have to think that it's not actually more than what both wifey and I were spending separately before our retirement, right? My wifey's a bit bougier than me, so her pre-retirement spending, I'd say, was at least 60K, maybe 60 to 80. So for being consistent, comparing apples to apples, right? Before getting together, and depending on that unearned income, we would have been spending around 110 to 130K, and now we spend 100K. I mean, that makes sense because there are some synergies involved when you combine a household versus, you know, when you're 2 separate people living separately. But I'd say it's less than what I would have thought. So overall, I'd say post-retirement spending certainly didn't really decrease significantly. I think it's generally still a bit of an uptick. So we're going to move on to talk about why exactly. So first I want to talk about needs. Healthcare in the United States, that's definitely more. Not much to say about that. It's an expense that's more or less unavoidable and will cost more without an employer subsidizing it, right? Everyone in the FIRE group knows this. This is one of the reasons why some people can't let go of a regular job. Again, I'm gonna say that mindset is bonkers, silly. I refuse to be held hostage, you know, by a corporate job, especially when I'm young and healthy. So yeah, I'll pay that more for health insurance. It's multiple times more, and I'll just deal with it, right? The only options Americans have besides the system that we've got is medical tourism, but wifey and I, we're not at that stage. But the next need I wanted to address for our personal household is that we do, in fact, at the moment, have a mortgage. Rather, I should say I'm okay with inflating my spend by a certain amount by not paying down the mortgage because of the opportunity cost of that would incur of less returns on the market if I cash out positions to pay it off, right? I think mentally this feels very different than my first mortgage, right? That felt like a shackle for the next 30 years. This current mortgage is small enough that I can decide to pay it off at any time of the year. But I hold off because I would rather have my money working for me instead. Because our loan rate is very low. So still, both of these contribute to the additional costs that I could have lowered or eliminated entirely. Now we're going to move on to wants. Now this is the area most people think will increase in post-retirement, right? They say, what about all the additional travel or hobbies? You gotta fill up your time with stuff, right? Well, that's theoretically true, but I think it varies wildly depending on people. Now for wifey and I, we do travel more than what we did while having those high-powered corporate jobs, but we're relatively efficient about it, right? Frankly, I think we're, personality-wise, more homebodies than not. But still, annual travel budget probably adds an additional 10 to 15K versus what we did before, and same goes for hobbies. We spend more hobbies than before, but our hobbies are just not that expensive, right? I think it'd be a different story if one of us were into like golf or cigar or high-end liquor collecting or something, right? But instead, you know, I like pickleball and video games. My wifey likes gardening and arts and crafts and swimming. So sure, we spend more than we did before, but I don't think it averages out more than even $500 to $1,000 a month in combined hobby spending. So I'd say the increase is kind of incidental. And by the way, there's no, like, very little couple synergy, right? Because our hobbies are just different, diverges from each other, right? And there's no cost savings here. So the answers and wants is, it's slightly more, but I think less than what I would have thought. In conclusion, right? Are there savings to post-retirement life? I think generally there are. Obviously, we live in one house instead of two, but it's a house that's bigger than both of our single apartments added together. So not really actually saving because of that synergy, right? Our food cost is actually cheaper because now we make more stuff from scratch rather than buy takeout, okay? Because now we have time, we can spend more time on our health, but when you combine that with a slight lifestyle creep of owning a big-ass house these days, also with all the other slightly more in terms of spending, it might feel like we are in fact spending more in post-retirement, but it's definitely not much of a difference. Again, because I'm comparing what exactly I spent prior with what we spend now. The real kicker is, let's say on the high end, maybe our cost is up, our spending is up like 10 to 15%, okay? The real comparison is not quantitatively is it more, but is it worth it? Now, let's compare the 15% increase that I said is the maximum what we have increased by versus my quality of life. Okay, my quality of life is, since retirement, is up like 1,000%. Okay, my life is so much better. And yeah, I mean, I love it because I can easily afford, 15% increase in money versus 1,000% increase in life value. And I've been doing so for closer to a decade now. Booyakasha! Now, am I off my rockers? Feel free to yell at me below. Till next time though, cheers. A la prochaine.